Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Chris Randone. And no, it's not Monday. This is actually a Wednesday slate. I am filling in for one Dan Strafford again. But Chris, he left me explicit notes. I gotta ask, how the hell are you?
Did he ask that?
Of course he did. Come on, don't ruin the magic behind the scenes.
What a nice guy, man. No, I'm doing great. Tuesday night, gonna talk about this big 11-game slate for Wednesday. It's very exciting. So yeah, man, a pleasure to be with you outside of a Sunday. I get more intimacy with you.
I know. Here we are. People are going to start to talk. But in any event, we've got a big set of games here. We're going to go by position. And we will focus on these. Again, we have the DFS strategy show at 9:30 on Wednesday, where they will be going game by game. We have the NFL DFS strategy show at 11. Cast of characters rotating through there with one Dave Lochran. We will also have NHL hockey show. That'll just be with Jake Hari. I believe it's a 2-game hockey slate on Wednesday. And then we will have the deep dive behind the paywall, deeper dive show. I think with 11 games, they'll probably go at 5:45. You can double check that for sure. They'll go at 6 and then live before lock from 6 to 7. We've got you covered. And then, hey, it's hump day. We're heading right into the NFL. Starting off, Chris, we first want to say shout out to Yahoo Fantasy Sports, our presenting sponsor for this. We'll talk towards the end about some explicit Yahoo pricing, both at the top end and at the bargain end, but we're going to utilize DraftKings here kind of as we march through everything. That's kind of the one common thread that keeps everything together for everyone. But definitely check out the Cash Game Building Blocks article, or if you're into NFL, of course, you're reading the Prime Time article. Those both at the bottom section have the instructions, promo code, and secret password on how to get $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points matched with your initial DFS deposit bonus up to $30. Those YSRPs are available for immediate use into any contest. Chris, I've been talking. You need to talk. Let's talk point guards here. Trae Young going against Milwaukee. That's intriguing. Russell Westbrook had a Russell Westbrook throwback game, dropped 68 fantasy points, still shot 30, and I should say, and shot less than 35%. Always impressive when you can do that. We've got Kemba Walker going against the Clips. What stands out for you here on our Wednesday slate at point guard?
Luka Doncic. I mean, wow. How amazing is this guy? He is just absolutely incredible, and he's going to have another great matchup against the Golden State team that is not good defensively and just all around. So I love Luka here. The only thing that scares me is, do they blow him out or is it competitive? But then Trae Young, I don't mind. He's going to be in a great matchup as well, and he's only 9,400. So I'm surprised he's not at that 10K mark yet. It's interesting. I guess you can talk about his last couple games, but there were blowouts in both of those games, so I feel like it just that the competitive nature wasn't there for him to kind of exceed. But what Russell Westbrook stands out the most, man. I mean, Emac, he's 8,600. I don't know why he didn't go up much more after this last game, but I think you got to strike when the iron's hot here, because if he goes off again and does old Russell Westbrook things, we won't see this price tag much longer. So as far as the top tier guys, I really love Russell Westbrook here at 8,600.
All right, a couple of my thoughts here. I totally agree with you with Luka Doncic. He is actually the youngest player who laid down a 40-point triple-double. He had 42 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists. He is leading the league. That was his 6th triple-double in, oh gosh, I want to say, let's see, 6th in 13 games. So in nearly half his games, he has a triple-double. By the way, in 3 of the games where he did not get a triple-double, he missed it by 1, by 2, and by 3 assists. He did get the rebounds in those games. He's leading the team in rebounds, scoring, assists, pretty much everything but blocks. So it's impressive what he is doing. He is now crested over the 5-figure mark on DraftKings, and it is well deserved. Let's see. Kemba Walker gets an interesting spot here, going against potentially Kawhi George. Kawhi George. Oh my God. There's your portmanteau. It's the zombie. It's, oh my God. Kawhi George.
What was that? Who is Kawhi George?
Well, it's the amalgamation of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. No idea where that came from because they still basically haven't played together yet because since George has been back from the double shoulder surgery, Kawhi's been out with the sore knee. So here we are. I'm just wishful thinking, I guess. But Kemba been a little bit disappointing this season compared to even the usual Kemba Walker from the Charlotte days. Of course, he has a lot more help now, so he doesn't have to carry the load quite as much as he did for the last couple seasons. But the price tag is seemingly up there with someone that should be getting 45 plus fantasy points on the regular. So I'm not there to trust him yet. We had mentioned, let's see, Golden State. So Golden State is the only team on the back-to-back. That's who will be facing Luka. That makes us just a little bit nervous. Dallas is favored by 14, 13, and 13 and a half, depending on which of your favorite odds-making sites you take a gander at. That will probably stabilize a little bit more. The Golden State game for Wednesday night is still underway. They're about to start the fourth quarter there, and Golden State's actually leading Memphis by 9. So we'll see how that plays out. The reason we want to look, does anybody get dinged up? Does anybody play a lot of minutes? Because that's just going to make it less likely that Golden State's able to keep up with Dallas. So that's the only mark I have against Doncic. As we move down the pricing here a little bit, Spencer Dinwiddie jumps up on DraftKings by $1,200. It's a 20% price increase. He dropped 50 fantasy points in his last game. He played 33 minutes. He had 8 assists, 28 points, and just actually was phenomenal against Indiana. So that was a sight to behold. He's at 7,200. He is still in the conversation if Malcolm Brogdon. I'm sorry. Why did I say Malcolm Brogdon? This is I'm off on a bad foot. I apologize to my listeners for this one. If Kyrie Irving is still shall we say, less than 100%. And then we've got a Lou Williams. So I'm going to turn this back over to you with Lou Williams, but he's at 6,500. That's a full $1,000 less than what he has been recently. I suspect they're putting that price tag in because they think Kawhi is going to come back.
Yeah, I mean, if Kawhi's interesting because you don't just sit out 3 games for like rest purposes. I think there's probably a little bit more than kind of what we know right now. We know on the surface level, but I think there's more of a deeper root issue. And so if he does sit out again at 6,500 for Lou Will, you got to take advantage of that. I think George is getting up there with minutes, getting to that normal 32, 33-minute mark. Last game, played 29. So he'll get there soon. And so at 6,500, though, for Lou Will, I mean, it's a clear great spot for him as well. Other guys, I think Dinwiddie is still valuable at this price point if there's no Kyrie. I'm willing to go there because the usage is there, the time on the court is there, and they really don't have anyone else to control that offense besides him. So don't mind that. Jamal Murray against Houston, I kind of like. Now, I don't like the price point of 7,500, but I do like the matchup because I think it's going to be very high paced. I think we'll see a lot of possessions, which lead to a lot of shots. And you know how Houston is. They operate an offense with quick shots and very fast paced team. Excuse me. As we go down, I really like Devontae Graham. He's showcased a really good amount of skill sets so far this season. Can get you from downtown. But before last game, 16 shots from 3, 12 shots from 3, 10 shots from 3, 56%, 40%, 42%. So he's a shooter. At 6,700, with now him having a legitimate role starting in this offense against Brooklyn, we just saw what the shooting guard position did to them last game against Indiana, where Aaron Holiday and Justin Holiday just kind of really torched them in that backcourt. So don't mind Devontae Graham. And then as we go down, RJ Barrett, I think, is still underpriced given his point per dollar per minute at 5,800. Got to take advantage of that spot at Philly. A little bit more of a defensive team, but I still have 5,800 for the amount of time that he's on the court and the production that he's doing per minute. Don't mind that at all. I think Alec Burks is in play. as we go down even more for 5,200. With all these guys out, and if D-Russ is out still, Alec Burks is kind of like the commander of the offense, where he's going to take a lot of shots. He's going to be on the court tremendous amount of time. So 5,200 really justifies that it's a good play. And then I think we'll see more open up tomorrow as we see kind of news come out. But outside of that, I think that pretty much sums up the shooting guard position as far as a first look.
Their point guard position?
Oh, excuse me. I thought we were doing shooting guard.
No, we're on point. Well, it's DraftKings. Everybody's a combo guard.
Okay, yeah, that's what screwed me up. All right, well, basically all these guys, point guard, and if you want, you can go shooting guard with them as well.
It's actually true. Rare is the player that doesn't have multi-position eligibility on DraftKings here. So just hitting on a couple other guys within this disappointing showing there from Kai Bowman on Wednesday night. Unless he's starting, he just does not seem to be getting the minutes. So you guys will be able to see that, but just consider that going forward. We also have a price increase here on Kendrick Nunn. So he's for Miami. Now, Miami has a bunch of guys dinged up, and we already know that Justice Winslow's still out. Jones Jr. is still out. And of course, Dion Waiters is not even eligible to play for the team for a couple more weeks because he is being, what do we say, punished or reprimanded for his poor behavior. So Kendrick Nunn's going to pop a little bit. Just be careful with him. The assists just haven't been there. Miami has been, they've got Jimmy Butler who can handle the ball. Obviously, Goran Dragic, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench, he, takes charge of those situations. Not as many assists as he got in prior years, but he's the main ball handler when he's out there. And then even Tyler Hero has been chipping in here and there. So Kendrick Nunn is more of a scoring guard. Just be careful with him because it's a good matchup there against Cleveland. Hitting on some of the other guys that we didn't mention at point guard, Donovan Mitchell going against Minnesota. This is a home and home, Utah, Minnesota here. He was 5 of 23, so he was 21% from the field. That is a major disappointment from him. Also kept his overall fantasy production down, but the 23 shots is nice to see. He's shooting 46% on the season, so that is more of an anomaly there. I do like him in this matchup. Minnesota should be able to help push the pace a little bit with it being at home. It would not be a shooting guard position unless I mentioned Fred VanVleet. The Fred Van Elite contest will be posted by the time you guys are hearing that. If you win that contest with an Awesemo avatar, you will get 30 days of Awesemo premium content for free. Just $1 to get in. We run that one on DraftKings, and 75 people must fill to run. Top 15 paid out. Hit me up on Twitter if you are the lucky winner sporting an Awesemo avatar. And then down at the bottom here, as you mentioned, so many teams in action. There will be better options that appear, but I think Kobe White is intriguing. I like Alec Burks, who you mentioned. Keep in mind he is on a back-to-back. And then the other guy I think that is a really discounted option who's been disappointing lately is Gary Harris. He should see a fair amount of time on the court because he is one of the best defenders for Denver. And he is going to, they were going to have to either put him on Harden or they're going to have to put him on Russell Westbrook. But they're going to need him to play probably upwards of 30 minutes in this game. He's been dealing with the sore ankle, so keep an eye on that. They have not played since the 17th, so he's had 72 hours to recover. Anything else from either guard position?
I like Goran Dragic in this home matchup against Cleveland. I think this will be an easy game for them. And he's already playing 30 plus minutes a game, but he's producing. And at 5,500 for a guy who, if you look at his box score, he's taking a ton of shots, he's shooting threes, and he's also controlling the ball with dishing it out and really a lot of assist opportunities. So at 5,500 for this spot and this matchup, Colin Sexton is not good at defense whatsoever. Really like Goran Dragic here at 5,500 as a first look.
All right. I was looking at some overall rates for different stats just from the team perspective. Two things. Well, I was looking at assists in particular. it really jumped out to me. Phoenix leads the league in assists with 20 per game. The Lakers are second with 19, tied with the Wizards, actually. And then Miami at 18.8, Memphis at 18.7, Denver at 18.5, Philly at 18.4. I'm throwing this out there because most of those teams do not really have a true point guard. But it just kind of goes to show where assists obviously come from people other than the point guard. It's just whoever had the last pass when somebody makes a basketball move and then scores a bucket off of that. But it was kind of interesting to me popping out there. I mean, LeBron is the point guard for the Lakers, clearly, but and basically leading the league in assists. But I would say he's non-traditional. But all those other teams didn't really have what I would have thought of a true point guard. It's kind of interesting how the game has evolved, even in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Small forward. This should be fun. Up at the tippy top here, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is going against Atlanta. Let's see if they have odds on this one. Atlanta is home underdogs. Without looking, Chris, what do you think that Milwaukee's favored by in Atlanta? Oh, sorry, your microphone's a little mucked up there.
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I said 16.5.
11. I like the way you're thinking.
Okay. I mean, the way you were talking, and it made me feel like, okay, it's going to be pretty large.
Yeah. I mean, how often do we see that? Now, of course, anything can happen on these in these games, but makes it a little tricky to lay down the 11,200 there for Giannis in this one. I want to see what he is quickly on the other sites. He is 12,100 on DK and 57. So that is either the highest or second highest I've seen anybody priced on Yahoo. So yes, we like him. It's going to kind of be tough to get there. Paul George did play 29 minutes in the last game. He has been outstanding. He has played 3 games, 24, 20, and then the 29 minutes since returning from since starting the season after going through shoulder surgery on both shoulders. He is shooting 56%. He is from the field, 52% from 3. He has just been absolutely outstanding, but price ticking up a little bit there, not a lot of margin of error, and he's going against Boston. Now, Boston does have a couple guys capable of harassing him, particularly if Kawhi is out, but 7,800, I think we still have to put him in play if we pencil him in for 30 to 32 minutes. How do you like Paul George, and who else do you like at the top here, Chris?
I think Paul George is criminally priced here at 7,800.
Okay.
It's not even fair. I don't think I'm going to play Kawhi just based on the fact that if he does play, I don't trust it right now. I mean, 3 straight days, nursing a knee injury. What is going on? Paul George, healthier game by game, getting more endurance, getting up to game speed. Come on, man. I mean, this guy is a great 2-way player, one of the best in the league. At 7,800, you got to roll with it. So love him there. Butler underneath him, I like him as well, even though this game could get out of hand. But I will say Butler just gets it done on so many different levels. I see a lot of high stakes guys really roster Butler almost every single slate because he plays 38 minutes minimum. And I mean, he's so active on the court defensively that he doesn't have to really do much. But one thing that I really love about Butler this year is he's taken advantage of having the ball in his hands more, and he's creating offense for his team. You spoke on it. Miami's 3rd best in the league when it comes to assist rate. He's dishing out multiple games with double-digit assists. 2 of the last 3, actually, 13 and 13. So there's a lot of upside there, considering that he gets it done in so many ways at 7,700. You got to love that. And then as we go down, Boston's in a little bit of a tough matchup against the Clippers. So I would count out Tatum and Brown. I don't want to go there. Jabari also kind of in a tough matchup, but I would not want to pay 6,900. I'd rather pay up a little bit or pivot. And I think Will Barton would probably be one of my next guys Great matchup at home against Houston. Houston has no defense. And I think a lot of Denver guys will kind of be on my radar come tomorrow night. Aaron Gordon, I do like at Toronto. And then as we go down even more, one guy that I think stands out who is kind of, and it's gonna be interesting, but OG Anunoby, man, I don't know how to say his last name. Anunoby.
Anunoby.
I think he's fully healed now from his face injury that he received. Showed it off last game against Charlotte. 37 points. Was just a lethal scorer. He shot 76% from the field on 13 shots. Absolutely incredible. If he's now getting back up to healthy, if he plays 35, 36 minutes at 5,600, I really like that as well. What I look for as of late is not only projections, but I'm not focusing so much on ownership. I'm focusing on usage and time on the court and how they roll in rotations. And I mean, for OG, he's going to be someone who is going to be a part of that game plan the entire game if it's not a blowout, which I don't know if it will be. Orlando kind of plays a little bit more slower pace, but I really like OG a lot at 5,600.
All right. I think that's actually interesting. He is dramatically priced down again he had gotten way up there on DraftKings. Just 3 games ago, he was all the way up to 6,200. He's more appropriately in that, upper 4s, lower 5s, as long as Serge Ibaka continues to stay out, and Kyle Lowry, because Anunoby is going to need to soak up some minutes there, along with Norm Powell, and then obviously Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. Looking at some of our other small forward guys, there's a couple other questionable injuries. Andrew Wiggins missed a couple games for death in the family. His grandmother had passed away, so he was attending to that business. But he then missed a game because he was sick. He's questionable for this game coming into Wednesday, but he's at 7,600 going against Utah, so that's kind of a hit or miss spot. But if he's out, of course, that boosts Teague, gives Karl Anthony Towns a little more action from a scoring perspective. Jabari Parker's dealing with the sore right shoulder. He is right-handed. He's going back to Milwaukee there, Milwaukee's coming in to square off against Atlanta. But if Parker's out, that is one of the reasons why we're probably seeing the double-digit home underdogs there. You've got Jonathan Isaac, who has been dealing with an ankle injury. He is still questionable for Orlando. And then Jake Layman and Josh Okogie both dinged up for Minnesota. Layman's doubtful. He hurt his foot, which is a shame because he had been having some interesting scoring games there. And then Josh Okogie's been dealing with a sore knee. I want to say I forget which day he was a late scratch, but he missed I think it was Saturday, missed that game, came back the next game and was solid with 24 minutes, but then afterwards he's been complaining of knee pain again. So I'm pointing these guys out, not that we really want to play them, but that's where some of our potential pivot plays or value plays could open up. Anything else here from our small forward position at first look today on the Early Bird podcast?
No, as far as value plays, it's hard to kind of look at it from a first look until we find out more about injuries and kind of see the starting lineups. But I think that's it for me on small forward.
All right, last guy I have, and his prices come up. He had a nice game. Is Daniel House Jr. He had 34 minutes against Portland. Did have 3 steals. He's no stranger to getting steals. Just 2 games prior to that, he had 6. But if you go then do a little game log watching, even though he was playing close to 30 minutes a game, he's got a lot with 0 or 1. So just be careful there, because that can really boost somebody's fantasy performance. He should still be seeing 30 to 34 minutes, though, as long as Eric Gordon continues to be out, etc. Moving over here to power forward. Up at the top, we have Pascal Siakam. We've got LaMarcus Aldridge, who had one nice game surrounded by a bunch of sub 40 fantasy point performances. It's keeping the price down. The matchup against Washington is phenomenal. He laid down 46 fantasy points against them in the last outing in just 33 minutes. Washington does have no interior defense. They have no wing defense. They have no backcourt defense, and they play fast. So a lot of rebounds there, a lot of chance to score in the paint. So I do like him. I don't know what to do with Kristaps Porzingis. I sort of professed my love for him in the last game. His price is down another 200. He's got a matchup with Golden State. What do you like at the power forward position, Chris?
I mean, who's going to guard him from Golden State? That's the thing.
Draymond, maybe. I don't know that it's a good matchup for Draymond, though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, what I look at here is his price point, man. He's 7,300. There's so much upside with Porzingis, double wise, and just defensively with blocks. It's hard to say no to that price point. I would love to see where ownership is tomorrow as we get closer to lock, but I don't mind that. I don't mind Porzingis here in this spot against a really bad defense. And then I think Blake Griffin is coming into his own now. The only thing is how many minutes he plays, but I mean, he's 7,100 and it's Blake Griffin. Easy matchup against that front court of Chicago. Randall, he kind of went back into true form last game. Took 17 shots, was really on the money from the field. But if he plays the way he does this last game, where he's aggressive, he's attacking the offensive boards, it's really hard to say no to Randall because of his athleticism, and he has so much upside, double potential, and he's a scorer. He's a legitimate like wing. So 7K, I don't mind it either, even though the matchup is a little bit difficult. But once again, these guys have a lot of upside, and I feel like they're appropriately priced. And as we go down, I think a lot of people will probably play Al Horford at 6,100, even though I don't think that's probably the best move. I'd rather either go to Bogdanovich or Covington. OG is also a power forward position, so I do like that. Wendell Carter, we spoke about it the other day, which it ended up happening. He got into foul trouble yet again and just limits his time off the court. But when he is on the court, the guy's a beast. I mean, double potential, and is a legitimate scorer down low. So he's 5,500. Doesn't have to do much to get you there. One guy that's really surprised me right now is Lauri Markkanen. His price just continues to plummet. Not too long ago to start November, he was in the mid 7Ks. He's dropped 2,000 EMAC. He's at 5,400. And you got to ask yourself, what is going on? Because, I mean, this guy, you know, he has a lot of talent. And so I'm just curious how this offense is working. Is Kobe White taking a lot from him? Is the way that they're operating this offense really just limiting his potential? He is shooting bad from the field, though, the last couple of games. 2 of 12, 2 of 9, 3 of 10. So his shot's not falling, and he's not hitting really that upside. So I think 5,400, though, for Lauri is somewhat interesting. I think you can go to that, and, you know, he doesn't have to do much either. And then you have your normal guys, Rudy Gay, Hachimura, I do like. They're in the high 4s. PJ Tucker, I could see people going to just because he plays so much time on the court. Not too much upside, but on those rare occasions, he could get you there. And I mean, outside of that, though, man, I don't know. I feel like maybe in order to win this slate, you might have to pay up at power forward, Emac. What do you think?
Oh, God, it's always so hard to tell. So I wanted to, yeah, I don't think it's a bad way to go. It will, let's just look here. So of the key guys that you want, a lot, Towns, tough matchup against Rudy Gobert. Embiid going against New York. He's 10,000, so I don't know that I really want to pay that because how much is he going to have to play? Doncic, we mentioned, going against Golden State on the back-to-back. Giannis Antetokounmpo is up there. Harden's up there. It's all of the guys at the top end of the spectrum do have question marks, or question marks meaning they don't necessarily have the easiest path to what we would like to see is from them, which would be a dominant performance. So I don't know that spending up per se is the key, but that tier that's just right there and well, I'm not framing this very well. So Giannis is the most expensive. Then there's Kawhi, but he might be out. So now we're looking at Pascal Siakam, Paul George, LaMarcus Aldridge, Tatum, Porzingis, Griffin. Those are the guys you want to play. I think a better way of saying it is maybe we might not want to go for value plays unless there's some screaming good values at power forward, because if you're not going to have one of these guys, and those guys I just rattled off all have 40 to 50 fantasy points within a reasonable outcome range, you're going to be in trouble. Now, if you pick one of them and they don't get there, okay, that's one thing. But if you're trying to save money at your power forward position and you're playing a guy that might get to 30, and we just, rattled off half a dozen that could get to 50, that's a problem. That's going to be hard to make up even on a what are we on, 13 game, 11 game slate, whatever.
11 game slate.
Whatever it is. I wanted to point out with Blake Griffin, Detroit has not played since Friday, so he's had 4 full days to recover. He played a game the next night, was a back-to-back for Detroit. He sat that, so he played the 11th, then didn't play again until the 15th, and now he's going to play on the 20th. That's a nice slow runway for him to get ready, get back up to speed, etc. I think it's 7,100. That's a very nice call out that you had for that one, Chris. And I think he's going to be one of the guys that, for the time being, until of course we get news that sets everything on its ear, he's going to be a guy I'm very, very interested in, particularly on DraftKings. There's a lot of sort of discounted options that you mentioned. Markkinen, these guys will get better or worse depending on what we hear with their teammates, etc., etc. So rather than spend any more time on them, let's move on over here to center. I hinted at Joel Embiid. Karl Anthony Towns, of course, he just faced Rudy Gobert and had 63 fantasy points against him. That was awesome. You know what the amazing thing was? He went out to the three-point line, made Gobert come out, and Gobert is not as good out there. Karl Anthony Towns took 15 three-pointers. That's the most he's had in the last 10 games. He hit 7 of them. So he scored 29 points, had 13 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 5 assists. So that's pretty solid. If you go back and look at his comparable meetings the last 8 times or so where he's gone against Gobert, he's averaged just over 40 fantasy points in those games. So, that was, 60 fantasy points is very, very in play on Wednesday night, but so is 50 or 40. And if he gets 40 at that price point, we're in trouble. So just keep in mind what's going on there. What do you think about Embiid going against New York? Embiid just had to play 23 minutes against Cleveland, but that wasn't a beat down there. For most of the game, Philly was ahead by 20. The game before that, they lost to Oklahoma City by about 10. Prior to that, they won a squeaker against Cleveland, but he's played 38, 35 minutes, and then they manhandled Charlotte. That got close there at the end. He played 26 minutes. So if the game's close, we see more than 30 minutes. If the game's not close, we see 25 or less. This feels like a game, New York on the road, that is not going to be close.
Oh, man. Yeah, it could be. I mean, you never know. But I do think that I would pivot away from Embiid in this spot. Taj Gibson, Mitchell Robinson are the guys in the front court as far as the rotation. Both scrappy type of players. I don't know. The thing is with the center spot, I like a lot of gays. I like a lot of plays in the 8K range. I think Bam Adebayo or Adebayo, however you say it, is in a really good spot at home against Cleveland. Defensively for that front court, not good. And we just saw that this past game with Julius Randle and even Mitchell Robinson off the bench, really exposing them. He's 8,300. I feel like there's a lot of upside there. And I don't know if ownership will go there. I think when you have Embiid and Towns and Drummond all on the same slate, ownership typically likes to drive to the big names and those guys who have a lot of upside, which I don't mind. But on this slate, I feel like it's hard to pay up for those guys. And I feel like it's more of a balanced type of approach on 11-game slate if there's not so much value. So I think Capella on the road at Denver, I really like at 7,900. With Jokic being on the floor, he's going to have to be on the floor a lot as well. And then even when Jokic is off, you have Millsap, you have Plumlee, you have these big guys where they're going to have to play big. And if Tyson Chandler's still out as well, then, man, I mean, Capella could probably see 40 minutes there. And at 7,900, I really like that spot. In that same game, Jokic, however, 8,400. As much as I want to go there, I'm scared. I really am. I've been watching this team, the way that they operate their offense. This is a great defensive team in certain areas, but when it comes to the center position and the way they operate their offense, Jokic is just not being utilized the same way. And it's weird. He's had single-digit scoring shot attempt games quite a few times this season already. But the way that they're really operating is, last game, Jamal Murray had the hot hand. He ended up taking over, and I mean, he scored 37 points through 3 quarters, and really limited from Jokic to have any type of role in the offense in that game. But he's just not producing at that Jokic level that we're normally used to. And so until that changes, I don't want to go there, no matter what. And then as we go down, we talked about Porzingis. I think Harrell's always in play. Randall we spoke about. And then you can go ahead and break down some mid-tier guys if you see anyone you like.
All right. The price is coming down on Drummond. It'll be interesting to see what happens between him and Blake Griffin. But I like that we're seeing the price down somewhat. The 2 games that Griffin has played, Drummond, one of the games he got into foul trouble. That was against Minnesota. But he's averaging 13.5 points and 16 rebounds compared to nearly 20 points and 17 rebounds without Griffin there. So his scoring, no surprise, takes a little bit of a hit. We already know his rebounding is going to be fine because they played together for the last season plus. So just remember that it's not quite the deal on Drummond there, but good matchup for him against Chicago. Amongst the more discounted guys, Willie Cauley-Stein is carving out somewhat of a role. For me, I just don't really like the matchup for him against Denver. I think Kelly Olynyk is slightly intriguing on a couple of the sites if you're going for an extreme discount center or power forward, depending on your side of choice. The problem is you're giving up a center spot on 2 of the 3 sites. And then the last guy down there, super duper discount, is Alex Len. He has been all over the place. But I kind of like him in the matchup against Milwaukee. He will have the opportunity to go against the Lopez brothers. This game could always go small, and we've seen him get single-digit fantasy points in the last 2 games, but the 2 games before that, he had 36 and he had 30. That might be a little bit of fancy play syndrome considering we have so many teams in action, but something to at least consider until better things come along. And with all these teams in action, better things likely will come along. Let's talk high end, low end at FanDuel, and then over at presenting sponsor Yahoo, Chris, as we wrap things up. So on FanDuel at the top end, you've got 12,100. You've got Giannis. You've got Luka at 11.5. You've got Harden at 11.7. You've got Leonard at 10. Cross him off because just that's a bit of a risk. Embiid at 10. I'm crossing him off personally just from the risk that the game may not stay close. But then you've got Trae Young, intriguing amongst these giants here at 9,700. Shout out to FanDuel for making what do we have? We have 14 players above 9,500. That's pretty good.
That's really solid.
Anyone standing out there? Maybe a Bradley Beal, who we didn't mention. We didn't really get into James Harden per se, but I think they fairly priced most of these guys.
Yeah, I think Beal and Harden, I mean, it's hard to say no to these types of guys. And we're speaking on FanDuel, correct?
FanDuel, yes.
Yeah. The shooting guard position, it's always that position when Harden's on a slate is how do you want to approach it? Harden and a cheap guy, Harden and like another expensive guy. And sometimes what we see is we always see a lot of people punt the power forward position and like one small forward position and like pay up in this area. So I don't mind either guy if you want to roll with either one. San Antonio's defense has been weird this year, not the same old Popovich defense. But when it comes to Bradley Beal, he is the offense. I mean, he is the facilitator. He's going to score a lot. He's going to take a lot of shots. And I don't mind going in that direction if you want to pay up for shooting guard. And if you don't want to go Harden, there's nothing wrong with pivoting down and going to Beal.
All right, on the cheap end, a couple guys are going to pop. Miami's got a pass all players here on FanDuel that are going to show up if you're looking at points per dollar. Tyler Hero, he makes me a little bit nervous just because the minutes are not always there. Kendrick Nunn, we talked about him not getting quite as many assists as we'd like to see, but Duncan Robinson becomes rather interesting. Now, he's shooting guard small forward on DraftKings. We don't particularly need him. On FanDuel, he is 3,600. So here's your punt shooting guard. Now, he has played 31, 26, 29 minutes in his last 3 games. He's hit 3 threes in each of the last 3 games. He is wildly scoring dependent. In those last 3 games, he's averaging 1.7 rebounds, 0.7 assists. You can go there at 3,600. You're hoping he gets 20, maybe 25 fantasy points and doesn't kill you. But just be careful because I have a feeling he's going to pop in a lot of the early run optimizers. Another guy we didn't quite hit on, but Isaiah Thomas picking up a lot more minutes, doesn't really have a minutes limit at this point, and he is becoming a key fixture in the Washington Wizards lineup. 5,500, very fair price on DraftKings. 58, that's actually reasonably fair on FanDuel, and then he's 16 on Yahoo. Transitioning here over to Yahoo, let's see if any of our top plays kind of give us some good warm fuzzies. 51 for Luka Doncic. I think that is fine. Trae Young is a $5 discount at 46. George is at 45. Not quite as good of a deal as he is over there on DraftKings. And then if we look at some of the value names I'm going to throw out here, and Chris, this is important because not all $10 players are created equal on Yahoo. We have, let me see here, DeAndre Bembry, somewhat intriguing. He's the flat 10. You've got Terrence Ross Jr. and Markelle Fultz. They're both okay. They are the flat 10. Troy Brown Jr. is 11. He's been starting and getting more time for the Wizards here as they're trying to see what they have with some of their youngsters. Those are the early names that are appearing. Guys I don't hate. I think across the board, he's one of, you mentioned him, I'm going to mention him yet again. Alec Burks on back-to-back. Again, Golden State, the only team on the back-to-back, but 52 on DK, 15 on Yahoo. I really, really like that price. Any of those names stand out more than the others for you?
I love the Alec Burks call. I mean, $15, it's hard to deny that. Norman Powell at $16, I think is somewhat interesting. And then if you go down to like the small forward position, Daniel House Jr. is 17 and OG is 20. So I don't mind that either. Troy Brown is somewhat interesting at $11. So I would have to look more into that. If Kawhi is out tomorrow and he doesn't play, Mo Harkless is $10. I guess you could look at that. If you're looking to pay down at center, I guess where you can go is maybe Wendell Carter at $18. Jared Allen, if you want to use him in the utility or center, $16. Don't mind that either. So we'll probably see a lot more open up for us tomorrow. But just to start off, I mean, yeah, these guys can definitely have some consideration if you're looking to play multi-answer tournaments for sure.
All right, with that, we are going to get on out of here. Again, we got you covered over there on the YouTube channel, about 6 shows going off on Wednesday, starting at 9:30 Eastern with the DFS NBA Strategy Show. You can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Randone. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.